It's Angela here and welcome to Let's Walk London, where I am having a bad hair day, wearing a hat, and I am in Sandbanks, home to the rich and famous. That's Brownsea Island. Normally we would just be gearing up for the start of the season here. All sorts of boat trips, things like that, but everything's closed at the moment. Even the chain ferry. The Sandbanks chain ferry is on furlough now. They did try and get some money from the government to keep it running, but they couldn't. That's Studland Beach over there. So the Sandbanks chain ferry came into operation in 1926. And as is so often the case, once you put a transport link through somewhere, everybody arrives. And so houses started being built. You can still see lots of the old 1920s and 30s bungalows and houses, but they're slowly being replaced by the big property developers, setting up quite a lot more expensive properties. So there you are, Sandbanks to Shell Bay. Shell Bay is a very nice restaurant over there, straight ahead, Shell Bay restaurant. And there we are, the ferry's closed indefinitely, as with everything else, despite the fact that things are starting to slowly come back. There we are, Haven Hotel, site of some of the first Marconi experiments, closed. And everybody out for their day trips. So, we are going to go for a walk, see if we can get a glimpse of some of the posh houses of Sandbanks and a glimpse at the beach. So we've been in minor relaxation of lockdown for 3 days now, and we're here, one of our favourite spots on the planet at Sandbanks. It's about 18 degrees today, middle of May, so that's shut. Some of the places here have got some opening hours for takeaway and things for the eating places. Our favourite cafe on the planet, one of them anyway, the Haven Ferry Cafe. I do hope they survive, because the chain ferry has been out a lot this year due to mechanical breakdown, and so that really hit their business badly, and now everything's shut down again. So I'll just give you a view of where we just walked over to Studland, and you have Swanage would be through there as well, and usually you would have seen the buses running, going on the ferry, taking people around. No more. Okay, so this is Panorama Road, well known for pretty big houses. And you've just seen the front of them, as I did sort of the vista view. Might have caught that. We actually can't look into any of them, because rightly so, they have gates. What I'm going to do is actually cross over, because you get a slightly better view from the other side of the road. You can sort of see the tops of the bigger houses, and not too bad this side of the road. Nothing too shabby here. Got a dedicated helper with me today, because he does like a trip to the seaside.
Oh yeah.
But he's also busy with college work. It's a jogger coming and a car coming, as I try to escape both of them. It's been quite a lot of, well, not quite a lot, there's been a research paper saying that if you get into the slipstream of a jogger as they go past you, there's an enhanced risk of them passing on COVID should they have it. Anyway, beautiful house there. Harbour Gate, always one of the best. Here we are, walking down the middle of the road, feeling wild and dangerous. Oh, here's a house with a piano on its gate. I wonder if that's significant. Nice. I'll give you some history at some point. But for now, let's just nosy at people's houses. That one's called Westover. 116 Panorama Road. So normally you get more traffic through here, but with the chain ferry out again, keeps it a bit quieter. So you can see you've got a real mix of housing stock here. Some of these are the sort of more original 1920s and 30s houses. And then obviously you've got the big property developments. And they get built, rebuilt, knocked down, refurbished, built again. It's very popular for all that. That's one, Waterweeds. This bit here seems to have been a building site for quite some time. I don't know when they're ever going to get finished with that. Get quite a high Porsche count around here as well, and the usual predictable nice cars, Ferraris, Mercedes, Bentley. So here we have some of the sort of developed flats and apartments and townhouses. A lot of those are built and then bought as holiday rentals, holiday homes, things like that. That property is called Starboard Lights. A nice name. So I think a lot of these are used for rental or holiday homes when they're not being rented out. Here. Right, I think we're going to cross over to the sunny side of the street. And I can give you a bit of history, if you'd like a bit of history. Car coming. This is one way. Panorama Road is one way. Get everybody on the chain ferry and off the chain ferry in one circular movement. That's Harbourside House. Nice quick nosy. Thank you. Keeping your gate open. Some quite exotic looking plants. It's sort of got quite a, you know, how do you call these things? Tropical, subtropical, microclimate. It's pretty warm anyway. Water's Edge have their gate closed. Don't blame them. Don't want people like me gawping at you all the time. Then on the interior of the peninsula, so the peninsula is less than 1 square mile. And it's quite lumpy and bumpy as I just tripped. So that's Brownsea Road, and that's sort of got quite a lot of flats, old houses, new developments, things like that along there. Oh, and I'm just going to back up a moment. That's Poole Harbour. That takes you straight through to Poole. So beautiful locations. Another Porsche I see there. Wonderful houses, and most of the sort of big trees in this area have preservation orders on them, so you can't go knocking them down. There we are, beautiful houses with beautiful views across to Poole Harbour. Do we dare call these on this side of the road the cheap seats? They're not looking out onto the water. I don't think they're very cheap for cheap seats. So if you want a bit of history, semi-geography, quite often I think we learnt about Poole Harbour when I was at school doing geography. So Sandbanks is a small peninsula. Just going to nose you all the houses that we can as we go past. It's a small peninsula, as I said, less than 1 square mile, that crosses the mouth of Poole Harbour on the English Channel at Poole, Dorset, England. 'Tis known these days as a millionaire's sun-soaked playground. It's certainly pretty sunny today. I do get a few clouds come up, but it's beautifully warm. £10 million houses, wealthy business moguls and celebrities. But in its early incarnation, it was simply known as Parkstone-on-Sea. So it was just wild sand dunes. Right, now we're going to the old Coastguard's cottages. It started out as nothing but sand, and in many ways still is nothing but sand. The sand was washed by the tides from cliff erosion further along the coast at Poole Bay to eventually form a spit of dunes, partially obstructing the mouth of Poole Harbour. And Poole Harbour, as I said, I remember learning in geography, the largest or one of the largest in the world as a natural harbour, except for Sydney Harbour. So that's Gin Alley Trust along there. I don't know what that means. I do know that these are the old Coastguard cottages. There was originally, when this was just sand dunes and fishermen and wildfowlers, there was a lifeboat house here in 1865, but they still had to transport the boat crew from Poole Quay by horse-drawn cart around unmade country lanes and along the harbour foreshore. So in 1876 came the row of these Coastguard cottages. Some of them, one of them at least, is up for rent as a holiday location. Now, I'm going to go down this little path. We have to actually return back up it again. This just takes you down to the foreshore. It's hard to understand these days when you see it all, but this was a sort of bohemian getaway. No electricity or modern conveniences for many years. And these days, it's one of the most expensive property in the world. Now, we can actually get down there. There's some steps here. I'm going to go careful because they get slippery because of, tide and seaweed and what have you. There we are. So it's low tide. These are the back end of some of the houses. And that's Poole in the distance, Poole Harbour. And there's a boat transport. What is that boat doing over there in front of Brownsea Island? Brownsea Island is National Trust, but they seem to be transporting some stuff on that boat. There we are. So we're going to head in that direction towards Sandbanks, main town. I'm going to turn around. Dedicated helper can shift. Here we go. Right. So in between the houses here. Yes, so a real getaway place for the bohemian set. Largely deserted and cut off from the rest of the country. Right in the early stages of its existence, and for the first sort of people that sort of built little holiday homes here, little shacks mostly. I like this. They've got these little tiny footpaths. This is footpath number 109. Fell down a step. As I said, Coastguard cottages. We're going to head this way. Now, Poole Harbour. Nice and deep, supporting the maritime trade. And this peninsula, Sandbanks Peninsula. There's Gin Alley. So the Sandbanks Peninsula was permitting Poole Harbour to continue being very active and being very commercial. And I think I saw something that there was a very active trade up to sort of Nova Scotia, Canada, places like that, operating out of Poole Harbour. But by the 1890s there was a serious risk that the neck of the peninsula would be breached by the sea. That would have silted up the main harbour entrance and cut off Poole's maritime trade. Wait a minute, there's some people here. Just going to walk around them when the cars have passed. Okay, here we go. Now, the owner of much of Sandbanks, Lord Wimborne, when told that he would need to finance the saving of the peninsula through putting groins along the seafront, didn't much fancy that. So he offered most of Sandbanks to the council at a nominal cost if the council would do the work to protect the peninsula and Poole Harbour. The Harbour Commissioners in 1896 put the first residential building plots up for auction, and in today's money they would have been worth £13,000. £13,000 to buy a plot here back then. And they didn't all sell. 40 plots were put up for sale. Put up for sale at the Antelope Hotel in Poole. First public auction sold only 17 of them. So here's another view of the interior of the peninsula. And here we are at the Royal Motor Yacht Club. We were around the other side of it, just through there at the Coastguard's cottages. And so the place where people came back to nature was born as they developed this area. As I said, initially wooden shacks, no services or facilities, and not an easy trip to get here. Now, here's a mystery building to me. For years, and I mean years, this place has been derelict. Prime location in Sandbanks. Haven't been developed, nothing. I find that mysterious. So another little path down to the foreshore. The foreshore out onto Poole Harbour, you may have noticed in this part, is private. So it belongs to the people who own the houses backing onto the harbour. The ground is also very bumpy. You've got sort of ups and downs of sand dunes, loads of tree roots from all these massive pines. So if I keep tripping, sorry about that. So, many boats here. You can usually see somebody, at least one person's here working on a boat. And here we are, the houses. You can see you've got empty plot there. Why? So, and here are the houses backing onto the foreshore here. As you see, there's a sign saying it's private, there's no right of way. We're allowed onto this little bit. I sometimes have visions. What if sort of 10, 20 families came and said, we're going to sunbathe here? Quite a small spot. So again, we're looking at Poole Harbour through to the main road, Sandbanks Peninsula. Big houses. I think the only thing here is there's always building work going on. So if you have one of these very nice houses, guarantee one of your neighbours will be refurbishing, rebuilding. Property developer would have bought something and started breaking it all up. So I think that's the only negative side. I mean, if you're going to find negatives. Might be too negative there. So stuff about birds that breed here. It is protected as an internationally important site for birds that breed or overwinter. Poole flying boats and seaplanes. Long history, BOAC. They had a marine terminal here in 1939 to 1948. All sorts of history here, which I can't actually recall to mind right now. I did record this walk once before, but it was so windy. Kind of messed up the footage, so I'm giving it another go. So while we're walking up this path again, there are about 800 households in Sandbanks. A fair few are permanent residents, others holiday homes and holiday rentals. Millions of visitors. It's so popular in the summer here. But throughout the year, come here in the middle of winter, plenty of happy people. And they've got lots of interesting areas nearby. Poole Harbour, Studland, which I've shown you, Purbeck Hills, Jurassic Coast. A large part of that area is a designated area of outstanding natural beauty. You have ideal conditions here: sailing, fishing, windsurfing, marine sports, walking, cycling. Absolutely overrun with cyclists a lot of the time. Families, dogs. Beach is absolutely jam-packed with very happy dogs. And a nice relaxing sea life. Sandbanks Beach is actually part of Bournemouth Beach. No, Bournemouth is sort of in that direction. To the east of us, and Bournemouth Beach, regular winner of the best beach in Britain, best beach in Europe, those types of things. Golden sands, crystal clear water, breathtaking views. It's had the blue flag for its clean waters for 31 plus years now, I think. Oh look, surprise. Another Posh. More houses on the interior there. Then we've got some more on the coastline there. You would have seen those when we were standing at the foreshore. And then these are sort of when the chain ferry started in 1926. These are the types of bungalows that were being built from around that time. In World War II, this was taken over sort of as a military base type of thing. You had to have a pass to say that you lived here to be allowed to come and go. There's a fair amount of activity still going on. You can see we've got a delivery guy here. It's at least the second one that we've seen. Just get off the pavement a moment. Sandbanks Yacht Company, and there's a restaurant and a gym in there as well. Never successfully eaten at that restaurant. It's one of those that when it gets popular, they haven't got enough staff. So they've gone a few times and had to leave, which is a shame because I think it's pretty good. Now, the growth of the wealthy types came fairly early. One of the first was a wealthy banker and father of 8, Dr. Edward Andre, became Sandbanks' first property magnate. Built 8, no less than 8 houses on the peninsula for his children, each one of them. Another wealthy person who built and owned a principal residence here was Lord Leonard Lisle, MP, chairman of sugar giant Tate and Lyle. Massive sand dunes. I've got 100 feet high written in my notes. I don't know if that's true. Originally in the centre of the peninsula, but they got flattened as the housing development continued. Interestingly, the idea that Sandbanks is incredibly rich and wealthy was sort of an estate agent selling trick in 1998. So in the 1980s you could get a flat here for under £100,000. Now I remember prices of flats in the 1980s. That was still pricey, no question. But in 1998, an estate agent in a selling ruse did a calculation that the average price of a 2-bedroom apartment in Sandbanks on the peninsula worked out at £689 per square foot, which technically ranked Sandbanks as the 4th most expensive place in the world to buy residential properties. And the rest, as they say, is history. Right, so that's where we actually started. Down at the end of there is the chain ferry and Poole Harbour and across to Studland, so that's where we started. I'm going to come along here, show you the harbour and onto the beach. So the estate agents are closed at the moment. I mean, they've just told us on the news that the estate agents can now start doing viewings under very strict conditions. But they all seem to be, I don't see anybody in them. See that one? Is there somebody in there? Yeah, the lights are on. This is Rick Stein's restaurant, where we have eaten quite a few times because they let the dog into the bar area during the day. So even though you can't actually go in, you can actually get takeaway. So they have a takeaway wine menu and they have a takeaway food menu, which is all fish and seafood. That's certain days of the week at certain times. So this one's closed down, and then CAF are doing a takeaway thing here. Difficult to do the social distancing. Fluid, the surf shop, shut at the moment, hoping to reopen. And then you have the North Haven Yacht Club. And when Rick Stein's restaurant is open, hard to see from here exactly, but there is an outside eating area overlooking the harbour just through there, so that will be your outside view onto the harbour. And that's where we were just standing at the end of there, looking at the harbour. So I'm going to briefly walk you along the harbour's edge as we walk onto the actual peninsula, the connecting road between that bit of mainland. You can see we're very much low tide at the moment. If you come here on an even slightly windy day, kite surfers galore are out. They are brave and wild and crazy people. Doesn't matter what temperature it is during the winter, if it's a windy day, you get your kite surfers out. Paddleboarders. Well, actually I can see a paddleboarder out there now. Not a bad day for paddleboarding, actually. So we're approaching the main car park at the moment, just over the road. We're going to head there in a sec. So this is the main road through now, as I said, kind of technically a sort of a road bridge type of thing. We're going to cross over to the car park and over to the beach. First time my parents ever came here, they couldn't find the beach. They thought the harbour was the beach. They were a bit disappointed. But no, Mum, wrong side. I get what they're saying. You can't actually see the beach through there because it's taken over by the car park and chalets. We're going to head there in a sec. Thanks. So I'll just take you along here a bit so you can see into the distance towards Branksome. So you've got all the shines heading in that direction east towards Bournemouth. Alum Shine. I've run out of names of shines. Dursley Shine. And we're going to walk through here. It takes us down to the beach. Actually, no, I'm going to walk a little bit further actually. There's another little path I prefer. So there's a mini golf, crazy golf of some description, kids playground, a doggy, what is it, a doggy hairdryer or something, isn't it?
Oh,
or a doggy shower? Yeah, a doggy shower and hairdryer.
Yeah.
So people can wash off their dogs because they get really covered in sand. So people can wash off their dogs, and then there's a little drying thing as well to dry them off. Presumably before they put them in their car and take them home or walk home. If you're nearby, maybe you could wash them off at home. Maybe you don't want to. I don't know. So we're going to cut through here and through a sand dune, if I've got this right, and out onto the beach. Here we go. Here we go. So we could head that way, and that would take us along to the Sandbanks Hotel. I think we'll head through here. As I said, crazy golf, mini golf. So golf has just reopened, as long as one adheres to proper social distancing rules. Looks like they're a family out enjoying it. It's not a bad idea, it's something to do. But at least the car park's open. I think down in Cornwall they're planning on keeping car parks closed so loads of people couldn't sort of cram into the towns and villages and seaside spots. And yes, oh, there's a lot of dogs along here. So last time we were here was about 8 weeks ago, just before lockdown. And the ice cream place was still open then, actually. There was quite a queue. Hello. Dogs come to see us. He's off. So, Bournemouth. Glorious Bournemouth in the distance. It's got a little bit hazy now. When we were here earlier, it was much clearer actually. And that's the Isle of Wight. Over there. And there's some more houses looking out onto the sea and chalets. So I'm going to walk along the beach. This part of the beach at this time of year, you're not supposed to bring your dog. I think people are being a bit more relaxed with the rules due to lockdowns. I see plenty of dogs. But obviously over the summer when the beaches get packed, they try to have non-dog areas and dog areas. So I thought I'd give you a beach walk. One thing about beach walks, you know what? They're not that interesting. I don't know how to make them interesting because basically you just have a beach coming towards you as you walk. Oh, I can see some ducks over there. Are there ducks at the beach? Where did they come from? So that's Old Harry Rocks in the distance. Not connected to Harry Redknapp, who's probably Sandbanks' most famous resident at the moment. He's got a house along here somewhere, don't know where. Met his wife Sandra once when I was out walking our dog. I didn't know who she was. I always have this problem, I don't know who these people are. So I met a woman and her granddaughter. Her granddaughter loved our little dog Frankie, and they had 2 bulldogs with them. Went home, said to husband, met 2 lovely bulldogs, and the granddaughter really loved Frankie. Husband said, what does she look like, the woman with the dogs? I described her. He said, you just met Sandra, Harry's wife. Oh, okay. Done that a few times. I think there was a boxer that I was talking to about his dog, and some footballer for Southampton. I think his name is Shane Long. I was chatting to him as well. I didn't know who he was, obviously. was talking to him about his French Bulldog. And then he said he goes training at 6 in the morning at the gym. Thankfully I didn't say, oh, are you one of those people that likes to go to the gym? As we walked away, husband says, know who that was, Ange? Nope. Sorry. We saw Graham Souness once at home base. Anyway, I think there's some other people, but you know, I tend to chat about dogs when I'm at the beach. So here we have more chalets. Now, there was a statistic about the price of the chalets and little beach huts and things here. They're pretty pricey and big waiting lists, I think. Can't really remember. So if you find this cut a bit, it's because I'm, you know, or sped up. Maybe I could speed up the beach walk, time lapse it or something. So I learn my new editing skills. Now the beach is filling up now, but it is a beautiful day. Why not? Love this beach. So here we are coming up to the dog section of the beach, technically, at this time of year. So this section of beach ahead is all year round dog allowed. And there's also a barbecue area. It gets pretty busy. There it is. Although once it's sort of deeper into the summer and people are out and about, in the evenings there's sort of barbecues all the way up and down the beach. Fair bit of booze as well. Parties, that type of thing. It's quite interesting, boat life still continues. So even though the chain ferry and everything are not working, I suspect the fishermen are still out and about. There's plenty of people out in these types of leisure craft. As I say, why not? Life's pretty tough at the moment. Get a chance to enjoy. So another peek, close-ups of some of these here houses. Got a feeling Harry Redknapp's is one of these, but I just don't know. Ooh, beach house for sale. I wonder how much that's on the market for. Answers on a postcard. We've got a sand dune here that changes its shape all the time. Never know from one time to the next when you're here. Whether you're going to have a big clamber, fairly easy path through, all sorts. There's actually an old pathway under here. It seems to be completely overgrown. There we are. It's weird. So here we have concrete slabs. They go to a sand dune. And they start at a sand dune, which is over to the path, which is where we're going to go in a sec. Just bringing you this side of the beach briefly. You see more flats. I really like this part of the beach. It's a really nice little spot. I haven't actually swum in the sea here. I have been in it a fair amount, but I haven't done any actual swimming. My little nieces, they're teenagers now. They do love it. They do. They're much braver than me. Do a proper swim. Dogs do love to dig up beaches. They'll bury their ball and dig it up again. Right, so that's the Haven Hotel over there. And you would have seen that just where we started. And normally at this point you would see the chain ferry. Bramblebush Bay chain ferry going backwards and forwards. I heard somebody say earlier, I wonder where they put it. Good question, where do they keep the Sandbanks chain ferry when it's not here? When it was broken, they actually kept it moored until they fixed it, but at the moment there's no sign of it. So Studland over there. Got some fairly new builds here. So these have gone up, some of these have gone up only in the last 5 years, something like that. Again, answers on a postcard to how much they might cost. Right, we're going to head back to the Midway Path. Hello. And I'm going to take you on a secret little spot. People that come here regularly will know it. But I love more of those little footpaths. So we're going to head along Midway Path. It's a little bit tricky to social distance. It's quite narrow. Obviously wasn't built with social distancing in mind. Was anywhere. I read an article that said this could be the end of the open plan office as we know it. Simply because the open plan office in its original incarnation was actually with sort of air, light and space. Obviously business took a hold of it, and that's not how open plan offices ended up. Oh, hello, back again. You've got to go that way. That way. Yeah. Oh, he's waiting for someone. So here we are at Midway Path. That dog was getting anxious. Where have they gone? Here we go, socially distanced successfully. I can't point you up, but there's a flat at the top. And the guy has an exercise bike. Actually sits on his exercise bike overlooking the sea, which I think is wonderful. I'm very envious. So this has recently been taken over and made more pretty by the Sandbanks community group. Sort of tarted up the gardens. Obviously it's got a bit overgrown, people aren't able to come and tend to it at the moment. Great job though. So I'm going to show you some little paths. Just decide which way to go. So here we are. We were just up there. Exceptionally nice houses in that direction as well. We got some flats here. I think we'll go down this way, sort of make it circular. But I'll do you a little detour. See a woman ahead who was sunbathing earlier. Finished her sunbathing morning. So there's the bus stop. There it is. No buses at the moment. my parents were staying down here. They met two guys, retired. They retired and lived here. Because they were retired, they had a bus pass. So they get on the bus here with their free bus pass and then take the chain ferry for free. And then get off the other side and go fishing, go to the beach, those types of things. It's only like £1 to go on the chain ferry. But no, when they save that £1, they use their bus pass. So these are the newer built ones that I showed you from the beach. I'll see if I can get you a view there. There we go. There's been a bit of scaffolding since they went up. So I don't know if somebody did some more work or if it needed it. I really want to pay that sort of money and then have to do it up again. So again, more flats. I don't know my buildings terribly well around here. Said before, I don't know my architecture particularly. Some buildings there, but there is a beautiful house here which I will show you. Looks like kind of a manor house to me. Just going to cross over, see it from the other side. Ooh, I can smell fish and chips or something. Oh, I can smell something. It smells really nice. Yep. Coming up to my lunchtime. So I love this house. Got a blue roof. Quite a lot of them have blue roofs. Absolutely beautiful house. Goodness knows what the upkeep is on it. So we're going along Brownsea Road now, and I'm going to show you a little path. It's an interesting road, Brownsea Road. I think it was one of the original ones. Lots of little old bungalows and houses. That house in particular, somebody's just built that extension on the roof. Incredible job. That was a big one to take on. And you can see you've sort of got almost like an evolved 1930s bungalow there. And then this one's literally being built right now. I think it's a bit boring, that design, if I'm quite honest with you. Oh, I think they could have done more. Maybe it's the windows are the problem. Something's not right. In my opinion, as a non-trained architect or designer. Surprise, another Porsche. I'm going to cross over here. So, you know, there's a fair few of these sort of clapperboard New England sort of, is that what it's called? New England? Cape Cod, those types of things. Quite a popular design choice here. As I said, and you've got your cuter oldies, which I have a soft spot for. Quite like the way, so that's sort of quite clean lines in that one. Oh, here comes a dog. Hopefully there's an owner in tow. Hello. Hello. Thank you. I couldn't see you. There's a dog and no owner.
I know, he's on his way home.
Oh, bless. So I'm going to show you, have a peek at a path, and then I'm going to end the walk there. Quite like these dinky little places. So there's a fair bit of building in the 1960s as well, which you can see from these style houses. I grew up on a wimpy estate, as they were called, built in the 1960s. I sort of called them chalet style. So here's our path. This is footpath number 87. Can you see it? I'm going to walk along here. Don't have to social distance. Nobody here. So this kind of goes through the backs of the houses. And I'll give you a quick nosy. You can see we've got bungalows, rebuilt houses, all sorts through here. Pine trees galore. And we're in that footpath number 87 and on our way to number 84. I'll just take you along here a bit where we will end the walk. time to sign off. Hope you enjoyed the walk. See you next time.